Hello and welcome to the CyberSpark Podcast. I'm Will Leitch. Over the next few episodes, we're going to help you learn more about cyber. What is it? How does it impact our lives? How important is it to understand and educate and warn and train people about the important elements of cybersecurity? And how could you learn more about it, even consider it as a future career, and maybe have some fun with it along the way? It's great to have Ricky Coates, the CEO of CyberSpark, with me. Hi there, Ricky.
How you doing, Will?
That means you're the boss, doesn't it?
Well, I don't know. Maybe one of many, I think.
Ricky's an experienced leader and mentor specializing in cybersecurity training, developing programs, changing workforce culture, and he loves helping folk into meaningful careers. CyberSpark's website will tell you it's a group which wants to transform Northern Ireland into a global leader in cybersecurity education and workforce development. Ricky, all that sounds great, but let's get some detail. CyberSpark, who are you? What are you for?
Well, we came together in a sort of a common purpose. I had looked at other industries and how technology was advancing really, really quickly. And I used to skill veterans into fiber engineering, but I could see a looming threat on the sort of horizon, which was the cyber threat. Are we skilled or are we agile enough to actually face that threat? Um, are we directing our young people in the right way to careers? Is there an actual join between government, industry, and education? And, you know, was there a sufficient enough joined up strategy that was putting that all together? And sadly, the answer to all of that was no. Um, so we really did a deep dive over the last 5 years into how that problem manifested, where it needed to be cured, and how do we actually make those big three work together.
It strikes me one of the challenges is defining that because Um, I think in society as general and states in general, there's a lack of focus about what the threat is and what on earth you do about it. So defining the size of the job that needs done and the type of education that needs to come from it is easier said than done.
Well, that's correct. I mean, there's a lot of people doing a lot of good things, and that's what I will say. So from NCSC to DCIT, and then there's
Tell me what those mean.
the National Cybersecurity Centre, and DCIT is the Department of Science and Innovation and Technology. So they are the government bodies that oversee really what happens within the cyber landscape, or how do we address the threat that's coming down towards us. So education are pushing at it, but they're not agile at the minute. And private industry have had to leave that education roundabout because it's not sufficient for their needs. So again, there's a little bit of a disconnect, but that's not to say that a lot of people aren't doing good things. It's the fact that there's a little bit of siloing going on, which we find, you know, adds to the problem.
Which is what states and governments and big organizations do without meaning to.
Exactly.
They get
Yes.
into little departments and
Yeah.
don't necessarily talk to each other. Given that you've been dealing with that lack of focus, you're therefore working in an educational way. And how do you teach? How do you encourage? How do you train? How do you get people excited about something? And we'll get onto that in a second. But the issue is getting people to grasp that it is an issue. You took a look at the whole sphere and said the answers are sadly no, we're not ready and we're not doing what needs to be done. Is there, I think there's a dawning understanding and comprehension, particularly in a modern scam environment where people know what those are. People try to scam them. But is there that understanding of the threat that cyber proposes at a governmental or a business level?
Well, I think what happens is the government, design legislation, to try and restrict those threats, but ultimately it falls on deaf ears. Kind of industry and private businesses have taken the approach that if it doesn't happen to me, I'm fine, and that has been a big, big issue. Because if you look at the stats, there's about 657,000 businesses in the UK who cannot deal with cyber essentials or do not have the skills to deal with even cyber essentials. So they have a 44% skills gap at the lowest level, unable to deal with cyber essentials. Then we look at the higher levels at cyber essentials plus, and there's a 38% skills gap in businesses right across and SMEs right across the UK.
Meaning there just aren't enough people To
So,
do the
so
job for
well, meaning it's not enough people to do the job, but we're not skilling them in the correct way. So our company's taking it serious enough. You know, if it doesn't happen to me, sure, what do I have to do about it? Government have legislated about that, but don't actually push the legislation, to say to companies you should be doing this. And then there's lots of other big problems coming down the line. Technology has outdriven skills.
it happens so quickly.
It just happens so quickly. I mean, our fifth industrial age is probably 15 years away. And we're in the fourth industrial age and we're not prepared for that at this minute in time. And that's in cyber skills.
Really, really interesting. There was a government advert 5 years ago, back in 2020, Rishi Sunak's government, and they put an advert out about careers in cyber, and to all intents and purposes, really positive. It was a ballet dancer. It's been called the Fatima advert, and the idea was that her job might next be in cyber if she's not a ballet dancer anymore. Now that unfortunately didn't work because people thought, doesn't the government like the arts and doesn't want to push people into something else? But the intent was good. It was saying there are lots of people who could work in this area, who could be really interesting in this area and really find it fulfilling, who haven't yet considered that. And that's what you're here for. That's what we're talking about this for, to talk about education. Who are you looking for? Who are the kinds of people who could work in this area and make a difference in it?
Well, we sort of take it in sort of bite-sized chunks, So there's a short to medium term plan, there's a medium term plan, there's a medium to long term plan.
Okay,
So you can upskill people. So again, the advert had a true intent,
it did.
but did it address it in the correct way? To upskill people from different fields and different into this area, into the cyber skills area, which you can do. It's not always the best, but it's something that could do a short to medium time term fix. We find the medium and the medium to long is to put this into curricular education from key stage 2, which is at 10 to 11 years of age, right up to 18.
So right from primary and all of secondary school.
And we should be addressing that right at that level because we find that behaviorally in behavioral science, they would say a child chooses its career between the ages of 10 and 12. It will have a notion of where the child
I
wants
was
to
going to be a
go.
pilot
uh,
when I was
and
that age.
and you're flying high now, so that's really good. So again, in that respect, you give them a choice as to where to go because they will find out very quickly that either cybersecurity or this type of thing is not for them. And then they go off into other industries, but they could pick up some really, really, really good skills up until the point where they say choose a GCSE in this or choose an A level in this, and then want to progress into a career. But we must give them the options. It's no longer in schools where careers teachers, in my day, careers teachers were careers teachers. Today it's the science teacher who has a free period
Yeah.
is teaching kids careers, and it's not necessarily the fault of the teacher.
And unless those teachers are educated themselves to provide those curricular inputs, they're not going to understand either. And they're more than likely going to say, oh, sounds like you want to work in IT. And that's not what you're talking about.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's a specialized industry. We can teach foundational skills and where we should be at the foundational levels. We shouldn't be teaching people foundational skills at 18 because the industry has a fear for them because it looks overcomplicated. You look at all the coding, you look at all, and people just get fearful of that, or their brain just isn't set up to take up on that type of a skill. But the earlier we get young people, the better it is to de-fear the industry, to de-fear the technology, so that at least they're able to have an idea of what's coming to them. And as it progresses, and it's progressing quicker than education because education is static, it's not agile. We would say, and what we're looking to do is replace the ICT systems in all of curricular education right across the UK to standardize that. Um, what we're saying is that in this realm, the ICT realm, we should be agile. It's not a program that could be set in place like you do history. It
It's not
doesn't
locked in.
it doesn't change that much, So history's history. So those are key skills that they do concentrate on now, but there needs to be an agility to the ICT programs so that they're continually evolving as tech grows.
We don't want cliches of the kind of person who'll enjoy working in this sphere because we need lots of different people and lots of different skills and aptitudes. But what's the kind of thing, men and women both, very much equally, that we want people to be interested in? You mentioned coding. Does it have to be the nerd at home who's playing and not coming out and not talking to mum? It's not that
No, certainly
cliche.
not.
So, what are the kind of skills and interests that you will be looking for when you're seeing if someone is
Well,
appropriate?
again, with the approach of AI, there is a danger that we are removing practical and critical thinking from young people because we are more and more reliant on the technology to do the work for us. What we will do then is restore that aspect of critical and practical thinking to young people, i.e., research more than just the surface.
Don't look
So
at what's there.
don't look at what's there, look at what's underneath,
Mhm.
right? So that will give them a more informed view of what the world is when they leave school. So they'll not just see the surface of things, they will see entirety of what's the problem. How can I solve that problem? Rather than kind of panicking and not doing anything, just letting the problem get worse. So it actually does a lot more than just teach them coding or demystify the industry. It teaches them a lot of practical and critical skills as well at the same time. So helps them in their later life. And we think that that is a really, really good thing to do.
We've talked a lot about the need for education and training. We've talked about the need for how curricula might change. Let's talk about what you're doing practically. And it's something that I find really interesting and quite exciting. Boot camps and hack the aisles. What are those?
So, Hack the Isles was an idea that we came up with having visited our partner Cybexer in Estonia. We were invited by Kari Kunka, the ambassador to Ireland. We went over and viewed the Nordic Baltic Cyber Games, CTF, and we could see what this was generating. It was amazing. You know, young people were enthusiastic in getting into this industry. You know, there was fun in it. It looked cool.
It's a kind of cyber Olympics, isn't it?
That's exactly what it is. So I had seen that out there, we were going to, competitions in Poland and going to America to compete. But actually, there was nothing that we were doing internally in the UK and Ireland. We weren't competing against each country. So I wanted to restore a national pride within the UK and Ireland to say, listen, you represent Wales or you represent Scotland. You could win this prize. So that's what the boot. So when we go out to the boot camps, we're going out to the different regions. So Scotland was the first one. Wales was last week. Northern Ireland's coming in the start of January. Then we have England, and then finally AMTCE in Dundalk.
They're one day on site events. What will you be doing if you come along to that and buy into it?
Well, what happens is that we have trained professionals who show you how to toggle and use the internet to its best effect, and to use programs to what they should be. So your, Boolean searches, things like that, that are really, really useful in finding a problem. So what they do is they set a problem. So it may be you need to find out a code from a photograph that will have been embedded in a photograph somewhere. You then go through a series of sort of tricks and of the trade as such, going through them, writing code, or even, deciphering code into how do we find the problem. And then you go through a range of different, and we teach you how to go through that range. So really what we're doing is we're setting your environment for when we set you problems in the semi-final and the live final on the 21st of February. So it culminates in a big live final. And what we want, we obviously want that televised and streamed. And it is really, really good. It is enthusiastic for the young people. It's really cool, and it shows young people that it's not just sort of some nerd in the IT crowd in the basement, you know, doing
And
doing
it's not,
coding.
have you tried turning it off and on
Yeah,
again? All that
exactly, exactly.
cliched
Although that
nonsense.
could be the problem sometimes, but we'll not put that one out there.
Let the
That's the
code reestablished might be another way of putting it. So
the code be with you, as they say.
some learning, some lectures, lots of hands-on exercises, studying things yourself. But there's winners and there's that incentive to get to something first and to feel that satisfaction, and I took on a challenge. How have the boot camps been going so far?
They're brilliant. We arranged them for 14 to 24-year-olds. So what the reason behind that is because we always think that the best way to learn is peer to peer. So a 14-year-old could look at a 21-year-old and go, wow, that's what I want to be. That's the skill level I want to get to, and immediately learn something off that other person. We see more girls getting involved. The diversification in the industry then comes along, and there's everybody. So there's all sorts and pods there who just are really really interested. But it's that people coming together. So there's a social element to it as well. Then there's a team working element because that's how you solve problems is team working. Whilst you can do individual skills, and most likely if you're working in a company, it's always going to be with a team, and you're going to hopefully rely on your team. But that good communication is something that we need to rebuild, that social skill, everything. So it
Mm.
teaches them everything in that respect.
And Hack the Isles in February 26th, then it's just a big final.
Yes. It's like the big cool event,
What do you get if you win?
Well, there'll be a goodie bag, a few bits and pieces. My wife actually is designing a badge for the winners. She has a jewelry shop, so it's going to be quite precious
Oh,
metal.
cool.
So she's designing the badges then to present to them as well for the first, second, and third teams, and then you'll get a goodie bag,
And a lot
and
of exposure.
hopefully a job.
Yeah, a lot of
You know,
exposure, and people who were looking for bright young things who've got an interest in this and suddenly realized, actually, I've had a go at this and it's more than a hobby, it's fun and it could be a
yeah.
career. They might be knocking at the door.
Well, that's the serious part to it. What you will have is you will have industry there keeping their eyes on this. The UK national team has come to us and said this is a really, really good way for us to even select people for the UK national team. So it's a really, really good thing. And unfortunately, there's nobody from Northern Ireland in the UK national team. So I want to change that. I want to change that. That we see the diversification of people right across the islands, and one, they all start talking to one another, and then they form groups, and they're really, really good. It's like a hive. They're exceptional in doing this because they're techie minded. So
Mm.
they'll have their own chat forums and everything. So what you're getting is people from one side of the island talking to other people in another island, and they have a common purpose.
Collaborating, interacting,
A-
learning from each other.
And that could do no harm in industry because somebody else that they know has a solve to a problem. They'll simply ask them, and then it begets a collective resolution to a problem.
Sounds just great, Ricky. Thank you so much for joining us and getting us started. For everyone who started the journey with us in these CyberSpark podcasts, do stick with us because there's loads more to come, building up to that Hack the Isles event, that huge cyber battle taking place in February that Ricky told us about. You can learn about all of this online at cyberspark.group. That's cyberspark.group. Along the top, click Hack the Isles. We'll be back very soon with more to help you learn about cybersecurity and career options too. But for now, bye bye.